All right, our hot topic, the biggest topic of the day. We're gonna dig in just a little bit and go and and
Okay.
dare to circle around the heat and the fire here on
Mm,
Morning Kickaround. If you're
what
just
could it
tuning
be?
in,
What
I'm
could it
Robert
be?
Kerr. He's Jason Davis. Do we dare huddle around the flames? Christian Pulisic, is he world class? The topic of the day. Feel free to put a comment there on the live stream on the Morning Kickaround
Yeah.
YouTube channel. Jason Davis, Christian Pulisic scored in Italy's biggest club fixture over the weekend and then scored against one of the world's best clubs in the Champions League. He's healthy, in a good position, great form. Does this
hmm
make him world class?
Wow. Ask a tougher question, Robert. You ask a question that doesn't send an American spiraling when it comes to our view of our players and our place in this game and how everybody else. I mean, this.
It's day one, baby. You got to start hot.
Oh man, this is so tough. I mean, what's my typical response to this? I think in the past would be to say something like, "Well, what is world class?
Or
What
get
does
out of
that
town.
what does that even mean, Robert? World class. How do we define that?" And I do think that there's something to that, right? Everybody's got a slightly different definition of what world class is. Right? Nobody wrote this down. It's not chiseled into stone on the the grand temple of football. This is world class. This is how you define it. We don't have any numbers. If you cross this threshold, then you are world class, right? We don't. It is a subjective label that is applied subjectively. I think there have been times when it has been liberally applied and sort of slapped all over the place. That player's world class, and you're like, wait, what? No. And I saw it defined today. I think a random comment, maybe in a Reddit thread or something, and it was like, world class is the ability to walk into any team in the world to start, no matter what team you get dropped into. Take Christian Pulisic out of AC Milan and drop him into any other team. Would he start for that team? That's world class. Now that that makes world class an extremely small group of players.
Yep.
I'm not even sure. I mean, we're talking Rodri. We're talking probably Erling Haaland. Although, again, sometimes it's about, how do you fit the system? I mean, I don't want to. That's another complication. I think of world class as are you? Wow, this is okay. As I stall here, you tell me, what is world class before we answer this question.
To me, world class is if you were making a starting 11 and maybe an 18 for Earth versus the galaxy. Who is in contention to make that all world 18? And if you're in the conversation to make that list, you are world class.
So it's an 18 team list. Okay. 18 player list. So you're saying a game day, a match day roster. You're dressed for this match.
You are in the same class if you're on the bench as the starters more often than not, especially when you're at this high level.
Okay. So this is almost like Space Jam kind of thing. Like the aliens have shown up and they want to play a football match to figure out who gets to take, whatever, who wins. I don't even know how Space Jam works. Never seen Space Jam. Look at that. I can't believe I'm admitting that on this live show. Never seen Space Jam. But that's what it is, right? Like the aliens show up, they go, we've got our 18 players. Who are your 18? Would Christian Pulisic be in that list? Man, I'm going to say no to that definition. I hate saying no. I do. I hate saying no because I think, here's the thing again about being an American. He's as close as we've ever had. Like he's obviously as close as we've ever had. And you could argue about goalkeepers, and I'm not trying to diminish our goalkeeper history. Those guys, some of those players, Casey Keller, Brad Friedel, Tim Howard at times, incredible players, great goalkeepers. But man, we don't judge ourselves as American soccer fans. Are we thinking like, yeah, man, I'm so glad we have no goalkeepers are like, whatever. We've done that before. We don't care about that. We want outfield players who rank among the best in the world, and he's close. He's close. It's okay. If you were doing it on form, he might make that 18. If you were doing it on form right this minute, right now, you had to put the players that are in the best form up against those monsters or whatever they're called. That's Christian Pulisic might be in that conversation. What do you think?
So if he's playing down the left-hand side, I mean, what left wingers in world football would you pick if you were picking our
Well, he plays on the right for Milan, so this is complicated, right? This is another complication. He plays on the left for the U.S. He plays on the right for Milan. He has Rafael Leao playing on the left side when he's at AC Milan. He obviously there's been a rotation. I mean, Tim Weah would be your first choice for most people, but there's been a rotation for the U.S. men's national team. I mean, this weekend, it looks like Fonseca went to a 4-4-2 because he wanted to get Tammy Abraham and Alvaro Morata on the field, which pushed Pulisic into a nominally midfield position, which, again, it scrambles things a bit, right? Because you think of Pulisic as a wing player, a wing forward in a 4-3-3, because that's what his club has played or his country has played most of his career and his clubs for the most part. Or at least something in that variation, so a variation of that. But that doesn't. If that changes, well, then that changes. How much defending is he doing? It's complicated. It's complicated. I want to say yes, Robert. I want to say yes. Christian Pulisic, world class. Why not? Let's own it. Let's because you can make the argument. This is the thing. You can make the argument. Some people would shout you down. And if you're being extremely limited in the number of players that count, if it's only 18 players, he probably doesn't make that cut. But if world class is more like 3 teams worth of players, or 2.5 teams, or whatever, 50 players, Christian Pulisic's probably in that group right now.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, like I said, my definition was in the conversation. So if you're even debating, you're making a short list of it, and you're anywhere close to it, I think you're in that class. Maybe you didn't get picked, but you're in that strata.
By the way, here's the stat that people are talking about, because we did prepare this. This is the goal contribution since last season among Serie A players across all competitions. So there are some qualifiers here, but let's look at this. So that's Christian Pulisic, 31. The goal against Inter was his 31st. Lautaro Martinez picked up an assist in that game as well. So he's on 31. Rafael Leao, 30. Romelu Lukaku, 29.
So he's in the top 3 attacking players and probably top 4 league in the world. Yeah. So he is in that upper third echelon, a leader at one of the leading leagues. He is definitely on the short list for world class.
It would help. This is the thing about his situation too. It would help if Milan was better. Right? Like AC Milan is a top 15 team in the world right now, probably. Right? I'd have to think about it a little bit more deeply to get to where exactly they fit into that. But if you were ranking, and I don't have coefficients, UEFA's coefficients in front of me. Those are based on international competitions and other things. But if you're just talking about, like, if we were doing this AP style, like college football, and we were ranking the best teams in the world, Inter Milan's in the top 15. Pretty safely, I would bet, if we think about it. But they're not winning titles. Inter's the best team in Italy over the past couple seasons. Napoli has a title in the last couple seasons. Milan hasn't done enough in international competitions, obviously being knocked out of the Champions League last year, for us to feel like they rank among the best teams in the world, right? They're behind Liverpool. They're behind City. They're behind the top teams in Spain. They're behind Bayern Munich and probably Dortmund and Leverkusen. So it makes it tougher because we naturally ascribe world-class status to players who are playing in teams that win things or are challenging for those top trophies. And that's not Milan right now. And then you get into this weird place of like, well, maybe Christian Pulisic's not good enough for those teams that are actually challenging for trophies, which I don't think is true. Again, so much of this is circumstantial. And he did win a Champions League at Chelsea. So I don't know, Robert. I'm going with yes. Why not? Yes.
You like it? Yes. And for the American fans or soccer fans and American audience that don't watch, Serie A in and out, I mean, that was an upset this weekend. Milan beating Inter, that is an upset. I mean,
huge upset. I mean, it's so wild to say that, but but again, I do a radio show. For anybody who doesn't know, I'm also on Sirius XM FC on a daily basis, and we talked to people last week ahead of that game, and one of them, Martino Puccio, said, "No chance, no chance. This is not going to happen." He's a Milan guy, and he was so down. He was so sure that this was going to end in pain for AC Milan, that to have Milan win that game yesterday feels transformative. Now, I don't know. I think Inter still is going to probably win this title. And I don't think that Milan has enough in the Champions League to really make a dent. We saw it against Liverpool at home. They just weren't good enough. But maybe it's a formation change. Maybe there is something. Maybe, I mean, again, defending has been their issue. Midfield has been their issue. You add more bodies to midfield the way that they did yesterday, and maybe it changes things. And you had a world-class moment. Is he a world-class player? I don't know. World-class moment from Christian Pulisic on the goal. You get a set-piece goal. Hey, things can happen. Things can happen. And Inter had their chances, but Milan found a way to win the game. That's all that matters.
Yeah, and maybe we'll have to revisit this conversation later in the season because he might be having a world-class moment, and he's in world-class form perhaps over the last week with a Champions League goal and this huge goal, and maybe Milan can push and, challenge, and if he continues this rate of scoring and goal contributions, we may well have an easier way to say yes to the is Christian Pulisic world-class question. Any parting thoughts on this? Like, what would he have to do? Like, is there a goal total he'd have to reach to really blow the socks off?
That's a good question. I mean, he plays in a position where, he's not going to rack up a ton of goals, generally speaking, but he is capable of scoring. Obviously, again, we talked about the goal contributions. 31 is not, that's goals plus assists over the last season and a couple of games now. Look, if he hits 20 goals in Serie A this season, and with 12 last year, 12 and 8 in the league, and you'd have to sprinkle in the international stuff as well, the European competition. If he gets to 20 goals, I mean, I don't think there's any question at all. I mean, I think Lautaro Martinez had 27 as a striker last year. If you get to that number in a league as good as Serie A, I think that pretty much seals it.
That would be certainly exciting. I hope we get to do that show at the end of the season there, Jason, where we're in the no doubt of Christian Pulisic world class. So hot topic. Let's put the fire out and move on.